Jessica Kozlowski, welcome to Nature Reality Radio. This is my way of saying thank you for doing that session, which I won as part of a raffle at a conference. Thank you for doing that. It was very informative. I haven't had a chance to listen to it again. I definitely should. But I do remember a lot of the stuff you taught me, so I'm sure it'll just be preaching to the choir because I paid very close attention to listen to it. I learned a lot. Thank you. You are very valuable based on what you have to offer. So you're definitely worthy of being a guest on my show, not just as a token of gratitude, but also because, well, you have a lot to offer. I have your website up. I'll use that, I guess, as a guide throughout this program. A couple things I need to point out to my listeners. I'm sorry for being out for a while. I haven't done a show since about a month when I last had Elizabeth April on, but I've gone through so much. I'm going to be moving to a new house with my folks on August 26th, the day before I actually take a train all the way to California for a conference. And well, there've been a lot through with that. Also had an ingrown toenail, which unfortunately was probably caused by the gout that I have, which, and I don't know what I'm doing that's causing gout, but I better fix the inflammation because it's probably just going to cause the nail to become ingrown again if I don't. Tried eating some cherries recently. That seems to have helped the problem a little bit, but that's why I've been out. And I'm again, it's not so easy to do as many shows as I do in the present day as I used to do, working with FedEx and UPS as a package handler. That's very hard on my body. But I'll still be on the air, and I have no intention of retiring, even if I can only do a show once in a while. But anyway, enough about what's going on with me. Jessica, I'd like you to give your life story from a primary source perspective for those that have never heard of you, who you are, what have
Oh,
you experienced, what causes you to do the stuff that you do. I hate to tell you this, but I guess it's appropriate for me to tell you this. Please try to keep it somewhat brief because we've only got 45 minutes. This is Zoom. So I'd like to get into some nitty gritty metaphysical science that people can use for information purposes after we get introduce you. So knock yourself out. You got the floor. I will not interrupt you.
all right. Thank you. So, the Cliff Notes version, I guess. Grew up non-religious, agnostic for a really long time, was in some bad relationships, was atheist for 4 years. Got a reading. There was a random ad that showed up on my Facebook newsfeed that was like, I can draw your soulmate. And I was like, because at that point I was like, if I am not married by the time I am 40, I'm going to adopt a cat every year on my birthday. So I got the reading, and while the reading didn't come true, it really resonated with me. It described my relationship with the person that I will supposedly be with someday. So then I went down this internet rabbit hole about psychics and mediums, chakras, crystals, Reiki, tarot, astrology, like all the things. And I was like, I want to become a psychic medium. How do I do that? No one ever told me I could just do that. So basically, I guess I was born with these gifts, but I shut them down because of childhood trauma, that fun stuff. And over the last like 4.5 years, I have been working on my own intuition, my gifts, doing all the things. I'm a Reiki practitioner. I am a psychic medium now. I guess maybe I probably have always been, and I just didn't know. And now I'm also a transformational healing coach that focuses more so on relationships. So yeah, I did not know this was real. Like I honestly thought that tarot readings and psychics and stuff were scammers for like my whole life until me. So yeah.
Well, thank you. And looking behind you, you seem to love cats, seeing that that seems to be the motif behind your the tarot deck. Is that an actual tarot deck, or is that just posters that they have that just someone made up for a hypothetical tarot deck for cat lovers?
They are cat tarot tapestries. I got them off of Amazon, so if anybody wants to get them, just search for cat tarot tapestries on Amazon.
Hmm.
There's a lot more. I just haven't hung them up.
So, what is it about
So,
the cat motif that you like so much? Yeah.
so interesting. You know how I mentioned I was in some bad relationships? Well, I had
Yes.
a cat and I was basically kind of isolated with this guy in by choice. It was my for 2 years, and my only friend was my cat. And then when I moved back in with my parents a week after that, my cat became paralyzed randomly, and then I had to put her down. It was like really tragic and super traumatizing, but that was kind of I guess the catalyst to what was a cat lady obsession sort of a thing that was really a trauma response. And thankfully, I'm at a point now where I'm like, I don't have to identify as a cat lady anymore. Like, yes, I love cats. I have two of my own. But in the beginning, it would be like I had to buy all of the cat things I had to own all the cat things. Like cats were the only things that made me feel better after that traumatic. I'll say it was definitely a very heavily psychologically abusive relationship. So, and over the years, thankfully, I've kind of healed my relationship with myself and my relationship, honestly, also like with the cats thing. But it's just kind of a nice background. I still have it. I just don't identify as somebody who is like a crazy cat lady anymore. I just kind of know that I like cats. And it's just kind of part of my story. I mean, honestly, I even have a tattoo of that cat I was just talking about on my shoulder blade because, like I said, my only friend for 2 years, and then I had to be the one to choose to put her down when she was only 9 years old.
Very fitting. I got the similar thing right here. Some people say there's no cat in the Chinese zodiac, but I tell them bullshit. Tigers are cats. So who says that?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So but anyhow, enough about tattoos. We got more important things to, well, actually, no, forget I said that. Spiritual significance of tattoos. I'm assuming you wouldn't have gotten one unless you, aside from the fact that you like it. I actually got mine not just because, well, I like tigers because that's what I am in the zodiac, but there are people who actually feel that tattoos are worth getting for spiritual enhancement. George Kavaslis, he has a tattoo of one of King Arthur's swords. Not sure if it's Excalibur, the other sword that Arthur is associated with, but he's got that I think on his back and all that. And he said he didn't just get that because he liked it. He said it's
Mm.
there are purposes behind that. Do you does that make sense? Or tattoos
It
really?
makes sense. But like for me, it was, look, I grew up, both of my parents had tattoos all over their arms, and my mom had tattoos on her legs. Well, has, like they're still alive. And I'm actually the last person in my family to get a tattoo because I wanted meaning behind my tattoos, and everybody else just kind of like wanted to put stuff on their bodies just for the sake of it. So, yeah, I have 3 tattoos now, and all of them have meaning. And tattoos are just not like a thing that I'm a stranger to. They've been a part of my life my whole life. So, but what's cool is the one on my shoulder. I'm pretty sure that the person who sketched it for me channeled it because there's a lot of like really interesting hidden sort of like symbols and stuff in there that I didn't even notice until my friend pointed it out, which was just a couple months ago. And I've had this thing for like 5 years now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you. Actually, getting back to your posters behind you, are they all ace of something? Is there something about the ace sign that is? Oh no, they're
Oh,
not. There's the
there's
top
some
three are
threes.
okay, threes. So that's just coincidence, no particular
The
reason
tops are
why.
aces. Yeah, no, the
Okay.
thing it was 4 aces, 4 twos, and 4 threes, and then but it was just it's too much for me to fit on the wall, so not all of them are. They just
Mhm.
picked the ones that I liked.
Makes sense. Now you're on your website. There's a my philosophy page mentioning first sentence. Every soul has a purpose. Um, is it? How does one determine what their soul contract says their purpose is? Now, I don't want to make this my life story, but Andrew Bartzis, the Akashic Records reader, I did my session with him. He's also one of my most frequently used sources of information because the Akashic Record skills are so great for getting almost any answer you need. But he said that giving information is one of my soul contract purposes in life. And, well, I guess that's why I got this show.
Mm.
So, how would he? Well, he has the ability to access the Akashic records, but if you don't have the ability to access the Akashic records, how does one determine what their soul contract says their actual soul purpose is in this incarnation life?
So I do have the ability to access it, but I've never accessed it for something like that. But technically, from what I've been told, everybody can access their own records. I can't exactly teach anybody how to do that in a short amount of time because I also kind of, well, I mean, I use a pendulum for myself. But the whole soul purpose thing is you go through life thinking that it's this big, grand thing and that like it might be part of it, but I'm starting to think that the whole purpose thing in anyone's life is actually a lot less, quote, well, what we would consider to be less significant. So maybe someone's purpose is to just find happiness, or maybe someone's purpose is to just be themselves. And that's what lights up the world. You become this influence by being yourself and shining your light and lighting up the world and like igniting everybody else's flame around you because you're being yourself. So I have been told that my purpose is a healer. I'm still figuring that out. Like, yes, I'm a Reiki practitioner, I'm a quantum energy healer, and all those other things. And I think I give myself way less credit than I should give myself. But as far as like the whole purpose thing, I think it's a lot more abstract kind of than we think it is. But I also don't think that you only have one. I think you have multiple.
Well, thank you very much. Now, when you did your analysis of me, I'm not going to get into what you specifically said about me, but when I ask you to determine something about me, is there any general reason as to why certain things you can come up with an answer lickety split, while other times you have to think about it for a little bit and then eventually maybe say, I don't know if I can actually get a definitive answer on that question of yours. So is there any reason why that may happen for any given question I ask or anybody asks you?
Because my intention is to only get the information that is for your highest good, but also like I receive the information from spirit, so like if they give it to me, then great. And if they don't, then you're just not meant to know it. Like I cannot tell you how many readings I have paid for looking for answers to the same question, and I don't get the answer because it is not meant for someone to give to me. It is meant for me to experience.
Now, also that subject of getting answers and whether or not you're meant to get it or not. You said you use the pendulum. Uh, does the same principle hold true as to why it is that the pendulum clockwise or up and down if the answer is yes, counterclockwise or side to side if the answer is no, but sometimes the pendulum will move in a diagonal direction, which
Yeah.
is basically a way of saying we're not ready to give you a definitive answer right now. Before I give you the chance to elaborate on that, there's other cases where some entities may feel that humanity isn't ready. I've
Hmm.
always been a big stink about that. But one case in point, Brad Johnson, who channels Adronis, there was a talk he did way back in the day while he was channeling Adronis, and Adronis mentioned that the gas giant planets in our solar system are not what mainstream science tells us they are. But then he said, I'm not actually willing to elaborate on that at the moment because humanity isn't quite ready to hear that. Well, I'm like,
Mm.
okay. But well, why Jonas would believe that, I don't know. But a pendulum, I'm sure it would basically operate on the same principle as whatever Adronis was operating on, as to why it would answer maybe for some questions that should have yeah or yes or no answer, but the pendulum for some reason and spirit that controls it
Yeah.
feels we shouldn't know any reason why.
Yeah. Um, it's I mean, if I understand the question correctly, it's basically the same thing where it's like you're just kind of not meant like for me, if I use a pendulum and I'm not meant to know something, it just won't move. Like it does nothing. Or I'll just get like conflicting answers or like it'll do this weird thing where it starts to go yes and then it'll go no and then it does this it's a weird kind of like a triangle thing and I'm like that's not helpful. Um I wish that I could have the answer to everything that I want an answer to. But that's also just the part of me that wants to control everything. Because like I perceive safety by having information, and that is a form of having control, whereas really we don't actually know anything at all. Like we want to know the future. We want to know the whys behind it, but like there's just things that we can't know because it will interfere with our soul lessons. Or maybe we're not ready to hear it and it's not going to make sense anyway.
Well, George Kavaslis, I mentioned him earlier, one of his talks, it was with Michael Salla, that he did. He actually flat out said that Israeli guy, Ashed, or whatever his name was, who said Donald, that Donald was stopped from telling humanity about ETs. He said humanity isn't ready, but George Kavassis flat out said, no, we are ready. We well, okay, but what exactly is meant by ready? There's another issue here. Telling the world that ETs exist and showing it, okay, here's the proof that shows that the ancient astronaut theorists and the UFO nuts were right all along. It's true. Humanity can handle that, but what some people don't think humanity can handle. Well, Giorgio Tsoukalos, he actually said of ancient aliens, even if ETs are discovered, we're still going to have to go to work and put food on the table.
Yeah.
But would we? One could ask the question, who's going to go to work in the morning if everybody finds out that there's ETs out there that can provide free technology and free food and free energy for everybody? How do you know people aren't going to say, well, I'm not going to go to work anymore because I don't have to go to work anymore because I know there's ETs out there who can provide everything for me? Is humanity ready in that regard? Will people actually stop going to work if they know that human
Hmm.
ETs exist and provide technology for everybody?
I have some theories. Uh, One way is, in a way, I would say, in a way, we're not ready because I think everything would just hit the fan. Like everyone would go nuts because they would be like, well, why do I keep going to this job then? Why would I do this? But there's another side of it where there are people out there who feel like they need a purpose. So I feel like while a lot of people would probably leave their jobs and just say screw it and be like everybody go to hell or whatever. Um, I also think a lot of people would be like, well, I mean, I'm kind of bored or like, well, I don't like that I don't have a purpose or and I know that a lot of people out there are like, they're looking for their purpose. They want meaning and fulfillment and stuff in their life and if they're not doing something, then they need to find a way to be fulfilled. So like would they in this situation, would people have like unlimited resources to travel or is it just housing, food and stuff like that?
Well, that also raises the question, humanity in the future. I mean, if we don't have money anymore, then that well, how are people going to be able to like easily choose what they want to go to? I mean, if money didn't exist, you'd think, okay, everybody's going to want to go to an island paradise free of charge or attend some spiritual retreat free of charge. And well, the problem is you'd think everybody they're all going to be booked solid, and only the people the first come first serve are going to get to it because well everybody's gonna not everybody can afford these things, so people don't try to get these things. But I mean, I wanted to before I get to my mid 40s, I'd like to be able to attend Philadelphia Phillies baseball camp for adults, that thing they have in Florida every January. But let's say if money didn't exist, I'd never be able to book that because I'm sure that there'd be so many people who would want to sign up for that and not have to worry about money being an issue. So how would humanity maybe we're jumping a little ahead in the future here, but how can humanity handle something like that where money doesn't exist so everybody can do anything, but nobody will be able to do everything because only the first come, first serve people can get to it.
I don't know that money would completely go away, but if it did, if money did completely go away, I imagine that everyone would, it would all be bartering. It would be something. I don't even know how that would work. I think it would just be, I think people would have to ask for what they want and say when they need something. So like let's say money didn't exist and I'm like, I need a massage. I'm going to go to a masseuse and be like, hey, I can give you a reading. I mean, technically we could do this now, but like can you give me a massage? Like, are you interested in what I have to offer? Or maybe I have somebody that I know who can benefit from a reading from me, and then like we can do like a. It's just, I think if people would be really confused. They wouldn't know what to do in the beginning. I think eventually it would take a really long time, but I think we could make it work and everything would kind of balance out. But I also still kind of feel like money isn't going to go away unless something happens where the value of it goes to just absolute zero.
Okay. We're not really here to talk about finance. We're here to talk about spiritual stuff. And you mentioned the pendulum earlier. Now, it's kind of interesting how some spiritual and metaphysical devices are thought to be decent for finding the truth, but others may not be able to find the truth as easily or even bring demonic stuff to you. I've heard some people say never use a Ouija board. There's always some demonic stuff with that. And I also wanted to ask about I got myself because my life path number is 8. I decided to get myself one of those little 8 balls that you shake and ask it a question and it comes up the answer in a little 8 ball thing there. But I now have my doubts about the authenticity of those things. There was one night where it was a total lunar eclipse, like at 2 in the morning, and I realized, okay, I'm not going to be tired. I'll be able to go up and see it if it's going to be there. And I asked the 8 ball, "Will the eclipse be?" And it was actually cloudy at the time I did this, about 5 or 6 hours before the eclipse. And I asked, "Will the eclipse be visible where I am in the sky when it's at eclipse totality?" The 8 ball flat out said no. But 6 hours later, the eclipse was visible. So that raises the question, how come the little 8 ball that can predict the future allegedly or answer your questions can't work as accurately as a pendulum can?
You know what's so interesting about that is I kind of asked myself a similar question when my niece had an 8 ball. So I was like, I'm gonna shake this thing. I'm just gonna see. I'm gonna play with it and see if it works. So I asked it some pretty obvious yes or no questions, and I was like, some of these are right and some of them are not. So I don't know. I think I know for me, like when I use tarot cards, they're pretty freaking accurate. Like the only time I've ever had there have been a couple times where I have had to reshuffle because there are situations where maybe there's an energy that is blocking things, and I'll pull the card, I'll shuffle, I'll cut the deck, and I'll put the cards in front of me, and I'm like, this does not feel right at all. And then I'll tell the person, I'll be like, let me know if this resonates. Because I don't think it's going to, and I'll go through it a little bit, and they'll be like, "Yeah, that does not resonate at all." And I'm like, "Okay." So sometimes something blocks the information, and it's the same thing as when I need to go into someone's Akashic records. Like I have to go through this whole process where I even have to ask if anything is blocking the person's Akashic records at this time, and if it's a yes, then I have an invocation, if that's the right word, to use to unblock it. And also sometimes you're just not allowed access to the records. Like sometimes there's like a soul situation. I'm not even sure what that is. It's just what it says in the manual that I have. There could be a soul situation, but also it could just be that going into the records is just not good for you at that time. So the 8 ball thing, I don't know. I think it's, but then I'm like, if I argue that it's more like a toy, then wouldn't the tarot cards be considered just a toy as well? Wouldn't the pendulum just be considered a toy? So if I had to take a guess, I would say that there's a spirit messing with you, maybe, possibly, or maybe there's just no reason for it at all.
Well, I also heard that there's more than one timeline, and
Oh
for some
yeah,
reason the 8 ball was acting on a timeline where the eclipse wasn't going to be visible in
yeah.
6. But why would it choose that timeline? Why out of all this, it just had to pick a timeline and pick that one, or is it that simple,
Mm,
or is there something else to it?
if I had to take a guess, I would say that maybe you switch timelines without realizing it.
All right.
Some people actually feel the shifts. I have not yet felt a shift, so I never really know if I'm switching timelines, but like every single decision that you ever make is technically you shifting to a new timeline.
Well, when you say I don't feel a shift, what are ways that one can feel a shift? George Kovaslis, getting back to him again, back in he people have mostly forgotten about this, but he before 2012, he mentioned that from December 21st, 2012 to the spring equinox afterward, the Earth was going to upright on itself and then blossom into a 5D world. But maybe a year before that happened or was supposed to happen, he said he felt a shift in the timeline, and he told everybody, "Forget I said that. I just so I don't have egg in my face to the great extent when it happens, I'm going to say no, this isn't going to happen. The timeline is different." But he said he felt a shift in the timeline. So what did he feel, and how did? Well, you said you don't really. Maybe you're not the right person to be asking because you said you didn't actually feel. You don't feel shifts in the timeline. But how does one know if what they are feeling is in fact a timeline shift?
I mean, maybe I felt them in the past. I can explain t like what the way that I feel energy. Like I am my dominant clair is clairsentience, so like I have already felt weird stuff. I've already felt like something has gone through my head, and like I almost fell over, and I was like, what was that? I even like looked at the person behind me to see if they did something, but it was weird. So I'm gonna take a guess and say that when people feel timeline shifts, at least some people may feel it where it's like maybe the energy feels lighter, or it feels heavier, or just more dense, like around you or even in your body. It could be that you feel like a whoosh. Like sometimes I just get like a whoosh, even like sometimes from the ground up. So like for all I know, maybe that's a timeline shift. I have no idea. Um, and it even could even just be like a shift in your mood is another thing that I'm getting. It's like it's so subtle. I think that a lot of people experience things that are actually things that they don't realize they are, if that makes sense. Um, so like as an example, empaths, just as an example, empaths when they're feeling like down and heavy around other people, that could be normal. You don't even realize that you're taking on other people's energy. So you go your whole life thinking that, oh, you just randomly get sad sometimes. But actually you're picking up on someone's energy in the room and you're absorbing it and you just have no idea because it's normal.
Yes, and there's also the question of if you have a premonition that something is going to happen, how does the universe decide if you're going to feel that premonition? I had a similar occurrence like that, and on a couple of occasions that are very notable, where I knew it was going to happen, and then years later I knew something was going to happen because it was the same as the feeling before. But what I'm talking about is back in 2008, the start of baseball season. I knew in my gut the Phillies were going to win the World Series that year and win Philadelphia's first championship in 25 years at the time, because I felt it. And I knew all along it was going to happen, and it happened. And back in 2017, had the exact same feeling in my heart about the Philadelphia Eagles winning the Super Bowl. And I told everybody they're going to win. And I know because I have a feeling that's similar to a feeling I had in the past. But just to keep the magic, I didn't tell anybody that the feeling was the same that I had with the Phillies back in '08. And it happened. But the interesting thing is the Eagles did win the Super Bowl last year, but I did not actually have that feeling. I did not have the feeling throughout the course of NFL season that they were going to win the Super Bowl. Now, my guess is that the universe was basically saying, sorry, buddy, this is a one and done thing with each team. You want to have that feeling again, it's got to be with some other Philadelphia sports team, like maybe the Flyers, Sixers, or the Philadelphia Union. So it can't happen again with the Phillies or the Eagles because it already happened. Is that a reasonable hypothesis, or is there some other reason as to why I did not have that feeling about the Eagles winning the Super Bowl last year, like I did in 2017?
I mean, that is, I think, a reasonable hypothesis, but I also think that if it's not meant for you, like you're not going to get it. Like it's the same thing when I give readings where people have questions and I'm sometimes I'm able to answer them and sometimes I'm like I'm not getting anything. Like I'm not being shown anything. I don't feel anything. So if it's not important or if it's not for your highest good or something, or maybe even just you knowing the information is going to sway something somehow one way or the other in someone's life, ooh, in someone's life that is not meant to be swayed that way. So
Hmm.
like it, that was just something that I got. So like as an example, maybe you knew who was going to win and you said it to somebody and then they bet like a whole bunch of money or something on it. And then they got super rich, but like they weren't supposed to become rich yet or something. I don't know. It's just a guess.
Hmm. Yes, and of course, many would say that in reality, what was really going on there, because the idea that you know that a team is going to win, you don't know if a player's going to make a bad choice or a dumb play at any given time that's going to ruin a game. So, well, the more explanation is that it was actually rigged to happen because professional sports is rigged, and my consciousness was somehow able to tap into the information that the sports riggers decided that the Phillies and Eagles were going to be the champions that year, and why the creator wanted me to tap into that, I don't know, but I can only imagine that's how I would have known the only way I could have known that a team would win because does a creator actually determine what team is going to win based they don't even know what choices the players are going to make during a game, so how could they know unless it was rigged to happen? So well, that's a side issue. I'm just talking about this to make sense, the idea that people have feelings and why they don't have feelings when they think they're supposed to have feelings. And well, there's a lot that we don't know. And but moving on, by God, time flies. I think we've only got about 15, 20 minutes left. So well, out of curiosity, your site, that's a lovely logo you got there. It looks sort of like a flower compass. You have JESS going from a northwest, southeast direction, your name. Um, so exactly, is that symbol supposed to be something significant, or did you just pick it because you liked it?
I mean, there is kind of a reason behind it because, like, I'm a guide.
Mhm.
So, you guide yourself with a compass. Now, I'm not going to say like I'm just a tool. Like, I'm not a tool like that. What I'm saying is I'm meant to serve. So, like, a compass serves you, or like a hammer serves you, or something along those lines. And I guess I just felt like there was some kind of a meaning behind it where I don't know. It's a compass and I'm a guide, like a map, kind of.
Nice way to describe yourself. I'm a compass, I'm a map, and well, I guess I am too with what I do on this show. You mentioned the Akashic records. Let's get back to them for just a moment. Can the Akashic records be tampered with? Well, you would think that if the Akashic record, someone tried to tamper with the Akashic records to change the information, then there would be something in the Akashic records that said at this point in the illusion of time, this individual entity was trying to tamper with the Akashic records. That would have to be there. If the Akashic records is a repository of information for everything, it's impossible for someone to tamper with the records without a record of them trying to tamper it being there. Is that
Yeah.
right? Or so it is. Okay, there's no way you
I
can.
I believe that that is right because like I got trained in this thing called dark arts Akashic records clearing, and my first understanding of it was that I was clearing things from people's records, which would be like shadow energies and subconscious portalways, past lineage distortions, demonic entities, all those things. But now I feel like I understand it to be I am going through the records to receive the information that I need to clear what is going on in this present timeline. So I believe that the information still stays in the records, like it has to be there. I don't think that you can clear anything,
Mhm.
but you can clear something like in this reality through the records.
Thank you.
I don't know.
That's what, yeah, nice way of looking at it, though. Now you mentioned something earlier that kind of, I must admit, made me feel a little uneasy because I don't know
Mm,
how your attitude towards this would be, broadly speaking. But you mentioned when it comes to safety and security, I need to know. Well, with all due
mm.
respect, Jessica, I kind of can't get a little uneasy when I hear that because, I mean, are you the kind of person that would actually say, I want airport security to search everybody because someone might be a terrorist? Well,
Oh my
it,
God, no.
well, no, no, because I'm thinking no. Well, no, because the issue of whether or not someone is hiding something is irrelevant. Because the fact that no free entity has any authority over another free entity means that if someone tells you, "Why don't you let me invade your privacy? If you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear," you have the right to tell them. I have the right to hide whatever I do, so I'm not providing you with anything or any shit you can do about it. So get out of my face. Have a good day. So, well, I don't know. There's people out there who would even say, "You're a lunatic. You have to privacy has to be invaded because that's the only way we can feel safe." So, what exactly do you mean when you say I need to know to be secure? And how does that not run afoul with what I said that no, people have the right to hide whatever they do because nobody has authority to force you to reveal that you're hiding something. So nobody can force you to say I need to know if you're hiding. Well, no, you don't because I have the right to say no to you. So make sense of this, please.
So when I say I need to know something, I'm not talking about other people necessarily. I'm talking about I need to know what is going to happen. Like, where am I going? How is this going to end up? Is something bad going to happen? If I know something bad is going to happen, then I can prepare for it. If I don't know something bad is going to happen, then how can I prepare for it? How can I keep myself safe? If I know that things are going to turn out okay, then I have nothing to worry about and I can feel safe. But I don't know that things are going to turn out okay. So if something isn't going to be okay, then how do I prepare for it? How do I prepare for what I don't know? Does that make sense?
Mhm. Uh, yeah, stupid microphone. Yes, yes, it does. Thank you for clarifying that. Um, all right, let's just say we got 10 minutes, so let's try to cover some important subjects on the fly here. Um, so, all right, inner light. You say you want people to embrace their inner light. Well, what exactly is light? And well, Sai Baba, he once was asked, does the fact that all this bad stuff is being revealed means that there's more darkness? And he said, oh, no, no, no. It means that there is more light. In order for there to be more love, you have to bring everything to the surface. And the fact that these bad things are unpleasant, bad, malevolent, or whatever word you want to use, they're not. They should be still be thought of as light. So when you say inner light, embrace your inner light, is it the same principle that you have to bring to the surface the things that you find unpleasant? Or is that completely unrelated to the inner light you're talking about?
The way that I am referring to inner light is like the image that I get is it's basically love. Can you allow yourself like the your inner light is your love and your vulnerability, your innocence, your childlikeness. And I feel like a lot of people just due to life conditioning of society, they really shut that down because of fears of what other people think or, just like getting bullied. And like I know that that was me. I was a very, very giggly, loud, happy kid, but my light shone so brightly that I was bullied all the time, told that I was annoying, got yelled at, all that other stuff. So I snuffed it down to where you couldn't see anything. And over the last 4.5 years of this whole spiritual journey thing, I have been working on like removing all of the walls and all the shields and allowing that inner flame to like burn brighter so that I can actually, you know, be goofy, be silly, and actively love people without fear of getting hurt. So technically, there is like a darkness sort of a factor in there because, the whole duality of things. I'm not saying necessarily that the dark has to come to the surface in order for you to shine your light. But if there is something that is like really keeping you from being yourself, and it's like a childhood wound or something, that would be something to look at.
Hmm.